This is a continuation on number 3 on handout number 1. And again, this problem is very similar to the last problem, number 12, it's numbered, on that handout for tonight's homework. So an airplane, again, took 2 hours to fly 600 kilometers against a headwind. So whenever they talk about against a headwind, that tells us that we are taking away the rate of the wind. So I'm going to use W for the rate of the wind. And so this is the rate of wind. And it's a negative W because, again, it's against. But when we are going with the wind, that means it's going to be a plus W. But we also have the airplane speed. So again, it talks about they want to know the speed of the plane. That's the question. And so let's use R for the speed of the plane. So those are the variables we're going to end up using. So let's go ahead and set up our problem. So we've got the headwind is our title of the one equation, and we're going with the wind with the other. And so remember, it goes distance equals rate times by time. That's our formula. So let's go ahead and make our chart. And when we do this, we'll start off with the distance. Now, this problem is different than the other two problems because they're giving us the distance. They're telling us the distance is 600 kilometers. And we know that since it's a return trip, that means we have the same distance. And so that means going back that same direction, or the opposite direction, back to the place we were, is also 600 kilometers. It gives us the times as well. It says with the headwind, or against the headwind, it was 2 hours. And it took 1 2/3 hours when we went with the wind. That's what it tells us. Now the rates. Remember, we have two components of the rates. When we're going against a headwind, remember it's the rate of the plane, R, and then minus W, because again we're going against the wind. And then when we're going with the wind, it's going to be R plus W. See, that's why it took less time, because the wind is pushing us. It makes us go faster. It took more time against the wind because it's going against us. We're taking that wind away from the rate of the plane. So now we solve. Now on these problems, and we have the same situation as we for the homework as we have with this problem. See, whenever you're looking at this, and we, instead of distributing 2 over these numbers, let's try to get rid of that 2. And so here's my other one, R plus W equals 1 2/3. Let's change this 1 2/3 right now to an improper fraction, because whenever you deal with multiplication, you have to change it to an improper fraction. So it's 5/3. All I did is 3 times 1 plus 2 is 5 over the denominator, thirds. So 5/3. Now, on these problems, they like them to work out. So watch this trick. What you can do is you can take this whole equation here, and let's multiply it by the reciprocal of this number here of 2. So 1/2. See, that cancels this 2, and so we have nothing to distribute. Do the same thing on this side. Multiply by 1/2. Alright, so let's rewrite what we'll have then. Half of 600 is 300. So we'll rewrite that one as 300 equals R minus W. And there's nothing to distribute now. Let's do the same trick with this next one. Let's multiply by its reciprocal, 3/5. See, the 3's will cancel, 5's will cancel. Do the same thing over here. So 3/5. Now you got a little bit of cross-canceling you have to do here. So 5 goes into 60 12 times. So this makes 1200. And then 1200 times 3, well, 3 times 12 is 36. So that makes 360. And it's R plus W. Well, which method do we want to use here? Well, hopefully you said elimination, because we can cancel out the W's right away, and we've almost solved for the problem when we do that. But you got to be real careful. A common mistake is people will add this, get the right number here, 660, but they'll just write R, and it's not R. It's 1R plus 1R makes 2R. So we still have one final step, and then we'll have the answer. Again, all I wanted to know was the rate of the plane in still air, so that's r. So you divide by 2, and we get our answer. So there it is, r equals, 2 goes into 6 3 times, so 330 kilometers per hour. That is the rate of the plane in still air. Well, there's 4 problems again on tonight's homework. They're more difficult, I think, and that's why I'm giving you only 4 problems there, and I gave you 3 problems to do on page 340, and it's just solving using substitution. And the answers are in the back of the book, so always check your answer, but make sure you show the work. So on the problems I gave you that involve substitution, I only use it when y is by itself, or when x is solved for. In this case, y is solved for. So I'm going to take this expression, and I'm going to put this in place of y in the equation below. So I'll rewrite that equation. 5 times by 3x minus 11 minus 7x equals 1. Now, it's faster to use elimination, or substitution in this case, because a variable is solved for. Otherwise, you got to manipulate the equations so that the x's and y's cancel out. So in this case, I distribute the 5. We get 15x minus 55 minus 7x equals 1. So you've got some opposite operations to deal with and also collecting of like terms. So we're going to go ahead and add this 55 to both sides. And then also we can collect these 2 terms here. They're opposite in sign, so we're going to subtract. And we end up with an 8x. This equals 56. So just one step there of dividing by 8, you get your answer. X is 7. So once we have that, though, we still need to solve for y. So here's where we use substitution one more time and put it in place of x in one of the equations. This is probably the easier one, the one on top, because it's the one that's solved for y. So 3 times by 7 minus 11 equals y. So it makes 21 minus 11 equals y. So y is 10. So there it is, 7, 10. And you've got your answer. So you'll be solving a couple of these using substitution and then dealing with some word problems involving distance, rate, and time. Good luck on tonight's homework.